Think about the last time you made a new friend. Maybe it was at work. Maybe it was through someone else. You didn't run a background check. You didn't interview them. Somehow, in a few conversations, you just knew. But the real answer for why you knew is far stranger than instinct. You weren't reading their personality. You were running a calculation your brain has been running for 200,000 years, and it has almost nothing to do with whether you like their jokes. Here's the strange part. Long before dating apps, long before job interviews, long before anyone shook hands to seal a deal, your ancestors were already screening people, constantly, silently. Their lives depended on getting it right, because in a small band of 30 or 40 people, the wrong friend could get you killed. Not through violence, through something quieter, betrayal, laziness. A person who ate more than they gathered, a person who talked when they should have listened. Choose wrong and you starved. Choose right and you survived a winter that should have killed you. So, evolution did what it always does. It built a shortcut, a rule so fast you never notice it firing. Researchers call it a cheater detection mechanism. That's a fancy way of saying your brain has a built-in alarm for people who take without giving back. The psychologist Leda Cosmides spent decades studying this. She and her colleague John Tooby ran a series of famous reasoning experiments in the 1990s. They gave people abstract logic puzzles, and almost everyone failed them. Then they gave people the exact same puzzle, but wrapped it in a social situation. Someone breaking a rule, someone getting away with something they shouldn't. Suddenly, accuracy jumped dramatically. Your brain is bad at abstract logic. Your brain is brilliant at catching a cheater. That's rule number 1 your ancestors used, and you still use it today. You are constantly, unconsciously tracking whether the people around you are pulling their weight. Watch yourself the next time a coworker cancels plans twice in a row. Notice the tiny drop in trust. Notice how you start keeping score, even if you never say a word out loud. That's not pettiness. That's 200,000 years of survival math running quietly in the background. But detecting cheaters was only step 1. Step 2 was even more important. Your ancestors weren't just filtering out the bad. They were hunting for something specific in the good. Not the strongest. Not the smartest. The most generous. This sounds almost too simple to be true. But anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies, including groups like the Hadza in Tanzania, found something remarkable. The people who rose in social standing weren't the best hunters. They were the best sharers. A hunter who killed a giraffe and kept most of the meat for himself was quietly punished. Not with violence, with something worse. Isolation. People stopped inviting him along. Stopped sharing information about where the animals were. Stopped protecting him when he needed protecting. Meanwhile, a mediocre hunter who gave freely, who shared even when he had little, became the person everyone wanted beside them in a crisis. This is why generosity still hits you the way it does. When someone shares something they didn't have to share, your gut reacts before your brain catches up. It's not politeness, it's an ancient signal lighting up. This person is safe. This person will feed you when you're starving. Choose them. There's a name for this in evolutionary biology: reciprocal altruism. The idea that helping someone today is really an investment. Not a cynical one, a biological one, so deeply wired that it doesn't feel like strategy at all. It feels like warmth. The biologist Robert Trivers formalized this idea in the early 1970s. He proposed that humans evolved an entire emotional system just to manage these exchanges. Gratitude when someone gives to you, guilt when you take without giving back. Anger when someone breaks the unspoken deal. You didn't invent these feelings. You inherited the machinery, which raises a question you've probably never asked yourself. Why does it feel so uncomfortable to owe someone a favor? Why do you feel this pull, almost a physical itch, to pay someone back? Because in the ancestral world, an unpaid debt wasn't just awkward. It was dangerous. It meant the relationship was unbalanced, and unbalanced relationships collapsed. When they collapsed, you lost access to food, protection, and information you couldn't survive without alone. So your brain built discomfort into imbalance itself. That itch you feel when someone buys you dinner and won't let you pay them back? That's not manners. That's an alarm bell tuned by evolution. Now here's where it gets even stranger. Your ancestors weren't just tracking who gave and who took. They were tracking who told the truth about it. Reputation is not a modern invention. It is one of the oldest currencies humans have ever used. In a band of 40 people, everyone knew everyone. There was no anonymity, no fresh start in a new town. If you lied, cheated, or hoarded, that story followed you for the rest of your life, told and retold around every fire you ever sat beside. This is why gossip, something we treat today as trivial or even shameful, was almost certainly one of the most important survival tools your ancestors had. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar has argued that language itself may have evolved primarily as a way to gossip, not to describe the weather. To track who could be trusted and who couldn't, across a group too large to observe directly. Think about that for a second. The idle conversation you have about a friend of a friend, the "did you hear what she did" moment at a dinner table, might be one of the oldest human behaviors there is. It feels petty. It feels modern. It is neither. This is also why a single story about someone's character can shape your opinion of them before you've even met. Someone tells you a friend of theirs is unreliable, and you feel it, a small resistance, even before you've spoken to that person yourself. You're running the same reputation tracking system your ancestors used to decide who was safe to sleep near at night. So let's put the pieces together. Your ancestors picked their friends using 3 overlapping filters. First, are they a cheater? Second, are they generous? Third, does their reputation match their behavior? These filters ran constantly, silently, without anyone ever teaching them explicitly. They didn't need to. Survival taught them, and here's the twist that should genuinely unsettle you. You are still running all 3 filters, right now, today, on every person you meet. When you meet someone new and something about them feels off before you can explain why, that's the cheater detection system firing. When someone does something small and unexpectedly kind, and you feel your guard drop instantly, that's the generosity filter. When you hear one story about someone before you've even shaken their hand, and it colors everything that follows, that's the reputation system doing exactly what it was built to do. None of this feels like calculation. It feels like gut instinct, like chemistry, like simply liking or disliking someone. But underneath that feeling is one of the oldest, most sophisticated pieces of social software your species ever built. It just runs so fast and so quietly that you mistake it for personality. There is something oddly comforting in this. The friendships that feel effortless, the ones where trust builds almost instantly, aren't random. They are your ancient survival instincts recognizing something specific. Someone who gives without keeping score. Someone whose actions match their reputation. Someone your ancestors would have wanted beside them on a long, dangerous walk across an unfamiliar plain. And the friendships that quietly fall apart, the ones where something always felt slightly wrong, weren't failures of judgment either. They were your oldest instincts trying to warn you, in a language you were never taught to consciously hear. So the next time you feel that instant pull towards someone, or that instant hesitation you can't quite explain, pause for a second. That is not random. That is not just a feeling. That is 200,000 years of survival, watching, weighing, and deciding on your behalf, before you even know it's happening. You didn't choose your last friend with instinct. You chose them with a rule so old it predates language itself, and you never even knew you were following it.